The wind howled through the dusty streets of Black Creek as sunset painted the sky crimson. Jake Morgan secured his revolver before approaching the lonely tavern. Travelers hurried indoors while whispers spread about an outlaw gang planning to rob every business before dawn. Fear lingered heavily over the struggling frontier settlement that anxious evening. Inside the tavern, Eleanor Hayes wiped wooden tables with quiet determination. Though exhausted, she refused to close early despite repeated warnings. Jake admired her courage before saying, "Let me guard your tavern tonight." She smiled gently and answered, "I don't need a gunslinger. I need a husband instead, truly." Jake blinked, unsure whether she was joking. Eleanor laughed softly before explaining. Ever since her husband died 3 years earlier, greedy businessmen constantly pressured her into selling the tavern. Without a family beside her, everyone believed she would eventually surrender. She needed lasting protection, not another temporary hero passing through town. Jake understood loneliness better than anyone. Once a respected deputy, betrayal had cost him both his badge and reputation. Since then, he wandered from town to town accepting dangerous jobs. Eleanor's honesty stirred something forgotten within him. Instead of answering immediately, he quietly offered to help through the threatening night. As darkness settled, lanterns illuminated the tavern with warm golden light. Local ranchers, travelers, and miners gathered inside, pretending everything remained ordinary. Jake positioned himself near the entrance, carefully observing every unfamiliar face. Eleanor noticed his calm confidence, realizing he protected people without seeking praise or attention from anyone around. Near midnight, 5 armed riders stopped outside. Their horses snorted impatiently while boots struck wooden steps leading toward the entrance. Conversations immediately stopped. Eleanor's heartbeat quickened. Jake remained seated, sipping coffee until the leader shoved open the swinging doors, wearing an arrogant grin beneath his dusty black hat with confidence. The outlaw leader demanded money, supplies, and ownership papers for the tavern. Before Eleanor could respond, Jake calmly stood between them. "You'll leave empty-handed," he declared quietly. Laughter echoed throughout the room. The gang believed one wandering gunslinger could never defeat experienced criminals controlling neighboring territories through fear and ruthless violence. Without warning, the leader reached for his revolver. Jake reacted instantly, knocking the weapon onto the floor before another outlaw attacked. Chairs crashed, fists flew, and frightened customers scrambled beneath tables. Jake fought skillfully without unnecessary cruelty, protecting innocent people while refusing to become the ruthless man everyone expected him to become. Seeing their leader disarmed and 2 companions defeated, the remaining outlaws retreated toward their horses. Townspeople emerged cautiously from hiding, cheering as the gang disappeared into the darkness. Eleanor looked around her untouched tavern with grateful tears, realizing Jake had risked everything without asking for money, recognition, or reward in return from anyone. After everyone departed, silence returned. Eleanor poured 2 cups of coffee before meeting Jake's thoughtful eyes. "My offer still stands," she whispered. Jake smiled warmly, realizing her words no longer sounded like desperation. They sounded like hope, and for the first time in years, he believed he had finally found a place called home. The following morning, Black Creek buzzed with stories about Jake's bravery. People who had once avoided him now greeted him with respect. The town sheriff apologized for believing old rumors and admitted Jake's reputation had been destroyed by lies. Eleanor proudly watched the townspeople welcome the honorable man they had misunderstood for years. Business flourished over the next several weeks. Travelers stopped specifically to visit Eleanor's tavern after hearing stories of courage and hospitality. Music returned every evening. Laughter echoed across the wooden floors, and hope slowly replaced fear. Jake quietly repaired broken furniture, refusing praise while enjoying the simple rhythm of honest work together. One afternoon, a wealthy landowner named Victor Calloway arrived with expensive clothes, polished boots, and armed guards. He politely offered Eleanor a fortune for the tavern. When she declined, his smile disappeared. "You'll regret refusing me," he warned before leaving, making everyone inside uneasy about what might happen next afterward. Jake investigated Victor's background and uncovered disturbing truths. The businessman had forced several widows from their properties using threats, bribery, and hired guns. Eleanor realized she had never truly escaped danger. She simply faced a more powerful enemy, one hiding behind wealth instead of outlaw disguises or stolen horses and masks. Rather than responding with violence, Jake collected witness statements from neighboring towns. Families eagerly shared evidence exposing Victor's dishonest schemes. The sheriff delivered everything to the territorial judge, who immediately issued warrants against Victor and several corrupt associates. Justice finally began catching the powerful man who believed money could silence every victim forever. Desperate to escape arrest, Victor returned one final time with hired gunmen. They surrounded the tavern before sunrise, believing fear would force surrender. Jake calmly stepped outside alone, giving innocent townspeople enough time to reach safety. Eleanor begged him not to risk his life, but he simply smiled with unwavering confidence. The confrontation ended without unnecessary bloodshed. Deputies arrived just as Victor attempted to fire first. Surrounded by lawmen and brave townspeople, the criminals surrendered. Handcuffs replaced expensive gloves, while stolen documents revealed years of corruption. Black Creek celebrated because courage and unity had defeated greed more effectively than fear ever could together. Months later, Eleanor transformed the tavern into the town's busiest gathering place. Ranchers, travelers, musicians, and families filled every table with cheerful conversation. Jake no longer carried loneliness across dusty roads. Instead, he carried supplies, welcomed strangers warmly, and helped young boys learn honesty, responsibility, and respect instead of violence or revenge. During the annual Harvest Festival, Jake stood beneath glowing lanterns before the entire community. Holding Eleanor's hands, he smiled gently. "You once said you didn't need a gunslinger. You needed a husband." Everyone laughed softly as he knelt with a simple ring crafted by the local blacksmith for her. With joyful tears shining in her eyes, Eleanor whispered yes before embracing Jake as the entire town applauded. Their story became Black Creek's favorite legend, reminding generations that true strength isn't found in fast hands or loaded revolvers. It lives inside loyal hearts willing to protect, love, and build a future together with kindness.